Okay, guys and girls, I'm going to shoot another video of this Ramcharger. Reason being, I initially, the day I shot the first video, I did not have the keys with me, so I didn't start it. I've had a bunch of people asking. And I want to discuss the end of my seat project that I ended up doing. So I have one piece, one that would cover a center section if you damaged a piece or whatever. This material, like I said, it was dumb luck that I was able to find an NOS seat bottom, period, that matched this. Clearly it's brand new and the rest of it's not, so it looks a little different. And I did not restore the leather on the seats, or the vinyl on the sides of the seats. But I just want to, I ended up having to call for backup on this project because my idea initially wouldn't work when I took it apart and was going to do what I was going to do. So I had to take it to an upholstery shop and actually have them sew the center section in. And I didn't want to change the seats out of this thing because, minus that bracket, the armrest bracket that's missing off the side, the other two seats were in excellent shape. So I really didn't want to change the seats out in this or go with anything aftermarket. The dash is super nice, and once you dye the door panels blue, which I figured when I patched the side of this seat and fixed the center console lid, I would dye it all blue to match the rest of the dash and seats. I even thought about putting carpet in this one, as much as I hate carpet, but we'll see, because I have multiple people interested in it that want to hear it run. This thing has been sitting since the 15th, because I took the seat out of it on the 13th or 14th or whatever, and then I dropped it off in an upholstery shop while I was at the rod run in the mountains. So this will be an official cold start, because I think it's like the 25th today or something, and it's been sitting all that time. And so I just want people to see, if they're carbureted, and a lot of people forget carbureted stuff, you have to pump the gas when you start them, and sometimes you got to sit and feather them. But anyways, this isn't about the condition of the truck. There's other videos on here showing the underneath and the motor and all that kind of stuff. This is strictly about driving it down the road and hearing it, and I just wanted to show the seat bottom. So, because I got that project done and put the seat back in it this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and fire it up and take it down the road. So this thing had not been started since the 15th. And now it's hot outside, it's not cold, but it's it's cold to the truck. It's been sitting in my shop for however many days that is. But anyways, I've had questions about things and about how it drives and all that good stuff. And the bottom line with that is, a guy had a discussion with my wife yesterday about one that he drove that was real squirrely. And, first of all, that can be an issue with a brand new lifted truck. So many things come into play with squirrely and this and that, and tire size, tires, tire pressure, who did the lift, what kind of lift they did, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things that come into play, with it was all over the road. And I've also learned over the years driving technique. My kids, all three of my boys, grew up driving classic cars, classic trucks. My youngest boy actually has driven the most of them because we moved to the country and I let him drive them to school and stuff like that throughout high school. All CJs, first gen Broncos, all of them are going to have a little play. Even if you put new steering, but I don't care what you put on them and what you do, they're not ever going to be as tight as your new Impala. So that's number one. You got to learn how to drive CJ Scouts. You have to learn how to drive old vehicles in general. So my kids have all been taught the technique, and my oldest is 28, my youngest is 18, and my middle's 25, and they've all been driving them their whole lives, and they do just fine. So, knock on wood, don't want to jinx myself. But anyways, so all that being said, this one, amp gauge works, temperature gauge works, the oil pressure gauge pegs itself over. So and the gas gauge works, and speedometer works, and the radio works. So there you go on that. I'm gonna drive it down the road, and then it's always kind of hard to drive a stick and shoot these videos, so I'll do the best I can. But as far as having play in the wheel and things like that, it has a little bit, and you're going to get that. And I believe the shaft has been replaced on this, and the joint, and I believe this one even has dual stabilizers on the front. But, you know, speaking from experience, my my dually, it's lifted. I generally don't pull with a lifted truck, and it's a little different than what I usually pull with, because it's lifted. You know, so you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that with any lifted truck. I can drive this thing one-handed down the road. My son can drive it one-handed down the road. You know, so I'm just gonna go ahead, and it'll be a little bit lengthy video just because I drive it to the end of the street, but I'm also not very impressed with the tires on this truck, and in all honesty, I was going to put different wheels and tires on it. I was going to go with a white spoke wheel or some sort of steel wheel and a center cap. And the tires are good enough to drive around and all that, but they're just not in the greatest shape. I would actually replace them if it was me, if I were going to start daily in this thing. But like I said, I'm just going to tell anybody, you know, I would be very comfortable saying 90 out of 100 classic lifted trucks, Jeeps, CJ Scouts, anything you buy is going to have some play in the wheel. You have to learn how to drive it, just to address that. So you know, and air pressure, when the tires are cold, you know, that makes a difference. I actually have vehicles that for the first 3 or 4 miles drive differently when the big tires sit compared to after the tires get hot. So, you know, not everybody's cut out for classic lifted truck life. So, you know, just being 100% honest, lifted classic trucks may not be for you. So, now here, like I said, our road's kind of tore up because you have all the semis, and we have 3 major trucking facilities out here that pretty much tear our roads up, and then you have all the farmers and grain trucks. But like this truck, you know, I can drive it one-handed, and I can let go of the wheel, no hands, and the truck will go straight for a minute until it catches the crown of the road. But you know, you got to pay attention. So if you've got a kid that's one of these knuckleheads that, you know, text and drive and can't pay attention to what he's doing, I don't suggest buying a classic truck. So you know, you got to be into driving, not into everything else you're doing. So, but like I said, I'm doing 60 roughly, and you know, I'm fine. Road conditions have a big part of it, though. You know, if you've got a lot of semi-ruts in the roads you're driving, and there's a lot that comes into play. Like I said, tire size, tire pressure, all that kind of stuff. And then we haven't even gotten into ball joints, tie rod ends, and the rest of the stuff. So, anyways, this video was just to show how the truck sounded and how it drove down the road. And yes, there is a little play in it. So, I mean, I can drive it one-handed 60, 65, 70 miles an hour, but I've taken people on test drives before. I drove it with one hand down the road, and they jumped behind the wheel, and I really have feared for my life, like they're going to kill us both, because they're not familiar with how to drive an old vehicle. So, anyways, doing 65 now. brakes. You know, just because an old truck has disc brakes doesn't mean it's going to drive like your new truck. So keep that in mind also. You know, these trucks don't stop like your new truck either. Basically, you know, for all these older guys who are thinking about letting their young kids drive it, I live it, I do it, but my kids are told you don't tailgate, you don't, you know, you drive these differently. And that's all old cars. Trucks are worse because of the big tires in the lifts and the, you know, the brakes were designed for certain tires and things like that. You know, it's like driving an old Willys with four-wheel drum brakes with 40s on it. You know, you don't drive that like you drive your new Tahoe. But there's your video. Okay.